Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, East to West Reviews. So today we're going to go and get into Bad Batch episode 3. So this episode was a lot shorter, I guess the more standard pace for the rest of the season. So it's going to be a lot shorter video than the first one, where I covered Bad Batch episode 1 and 2. I'm going to link that down in the description below if anyone's interested. So we pick up where we left off in episode 2, the crew traveling through space, I guess trying to find somewhere to land and to lay low. Again, some of the things I really liked about this episode were really some of the dynamics shown amongst the crew. First of all, being Omega and Hunter. So Hunter has all of these dad moments we're seeing, and he has a few really good ones in this episode. Of course, he's being protective of Omega and not wanting her to go out and deal with the Ordo Dragon that's taking the power source for the ship. He likes that she wants to be like him, want to try and be a tracker, kind of like Hunter is. And he has a very proud dad moment at the end when she's able to get that battery source back without being harmed. And I think also he was very impressed that she was able to go and get the battery pack without having to use the blaster that she had taken from him. Personally, I think this might have been something that Hunter thought that he might not have been able to do. I think Hunter might have seen no other way to get the power source back without having to use violence. So I think he was impressed that Omega was capable to get the battery power back. The other point that I really liked was Wrecker and Omega. So we have this moment at the end of the episode where Wrecker's been working on this little room space for Omega. It's a space of her own. And we see that she's really excited to have this. So we know Omega grew up on Kamino. She didn't really have much for herself. So I think to have something of her own, like a space, was a really kind gesture for her. It's a reminder that it's really the little things that mean a lot to us. And I think it also meant a lot for Wrecker to sort of give her that joy and that feeling, because we see at the end he's really blushing and happy that he can provide this for her. The last character moment is definitely Echo for me. We've seen a little bit of Echo's involvement with the crew. From where we left off at the end of Clone Wars, where the last time we had seen the Bad Batch, Echo left with them and we hadn't heard of them at all. So to see that he's really found a place amongst them is really kind of warming to me, like I've said one time before. We see Echo sort of coming into his own. He seems to have found a place with these outcast clones. And it's warming because we know about his past trauma and his loss of some of his 501st crew members. So although some of these moments they're really nice, there's an obvious part right after that beginning scene where there's a hole left in the crew, and we see that take shape when Omega finds Crosshair's weapons kit. Everyone seems to have their own reaction to seeing it. We see Hunter, his face gets a little upset. Same with Echo and Tech. Wrecker, a little different. It's funny, Wrecker, although he had gotten shot and used his bait by Crosshair, he admits he misses him. I think maybe under the right circumstances, Wrecker can forgive Crosshair. Hunter seems to show a lot of regret because he left a comrade behind and he can't help out his brother. And as far as Echo and Tech, I think they also just want to get their friend back. So this from here, we immediately go and we see what Crosshair is doing, which is really interesting because we see that Crosshair has now become the commander of this elite group that Tarkin's sort of working on. So some of these soldiers seem to be leftover members from Republic forces. At least it's clear from the one soldier who was very outspoken in this episode, even though he didn't last long, clearly. I think that some of these are clear signs of the Empire trying to move away from using the clone army. And Tarkin gives this new squad kind of I wouldn't say an ultimate task, but a very challenging task to go and take down a very respected and decorated Republic soldier himself, Saw Gerrera. We see that Tarkin is very eager to end any hopes of rebellion and recognizes Saw Gerrera as an actual threat to like whatever him and Palpatine have going on behind the scenes. Because if you leave that sort of spark of hope, there's people, they don't know if they're remnants of the Jedi, but they can't put it past them, as well as the other systems who might try to rally against this new intergalactic regime. So as soon as they get underway on their mission, Crosshair Squad wasted no time in taking out this small force. We know Saw Gerrera and the main bulk of their force weren't there. I wasn't surprised to see someone on the squad want to go against Crosshair's decisions. And let's be honest, Crosshair is an absolute savage now that his inhibitor chip has been fully activated. And this really shows that how deep maybe this programming goes for the clones, because I don't think Crosshair is an actual like murderer at heart, but he's definitely showing a side that I think is more along the lines of what Palpatine really wants these clones to be. I think, we know Palpatine's very meticulous. So I think that that absolute ruthlessness is part of that programming to prove how unwavering that these clones can be to carry out any orders that are given to them. We know that with the Empire trying to establish themselves as a legitimate force, they need soldiers like this to carry out those absolute orders with loyalty and no questions asked. People need to be made an example of, unfortunately, which seems to be the case with Saw Gerrera's forces and even Crosshair's own soldier, who wasn't willing to take that extra step that Crosshair believes the Empire wanted. So we see that upon them coming back, Tarkin can't deny the results. He acknowledges the success of a squad led by a clone. And I think that this furthers this point where he says we can't go away from the clones just yet. We still need them before we can bring in a full army of loyal supporters for the Empire. And speaking of Tarkin, I'm sure I'm not the only one that noticed not a title change, but a new title given to him. We see that he's being referred to as Governor. Now, I'm wondering if this is Governor of Kamino or Governor of this sect of the galaxy, because we know Tarkin's a pretty influential and becomes one of the most influential members of Palpatine's empire. So it's clear that his motives to being on Kamino don't lie with just making sure that the clones are properly evaluated. I'm sure there's a little more to it. I feel like he's meant there to keep a closer eye on the Kaminoans, which we will get into in a little later into this video. So to get into some of my predictions for the what I think will come about in the future of this series, I really believe because of Tarkin's title change, we're going to see further the removal of clones from the Empire and the start of more soldiers like the experimental squad that Crosshair is leading right now. So we see that there's political struggle brewing between the Kaminoans and Tarkin and his faction. Of course, it's a constant battle trying to prove and disprove the usefulness of clones. Because the clones seem cost-effective to the Empire, but to the Kaminoans, they are the perfect, absolute soldiers that the Empire needs to maintain their hold on the galaxy. And Tarkin is not budging from his point of trying to move away from the clones, but he also still sees their usefulness at the same time. I really think that by the end of this series, it's going to end with the Civil War of Kamino, the battle of the clones that have been reprogrammed versus this new batch of clones I think the Kaminoans have mentioned that they're making now. And it's going to be a wiping of the facility and the clones as a whole. As I said in my first video, I played the Battlefront 2 game on the PlayStation 2, and in that we had a whole mission where, led by Boba Fett, the clone army ends up taking over Kamino and destroying the facility for good, ending all the clones and the bloodline of Jango Fett. So my last prediction, I think Wrecker's going to possibly turn himself. We see that in this episode, Wrecker starts to have a headache that kind of sidelines him from helping out Hunter. I think this is a side effect of that inhibitor chip trying to make its way into controlling his subconscious. So I think at some point this can either continue, or it might happen to Tech, Echo, or maybe even Hunter himself. And it's going to be up to possibly Omega to try and keep them from becoming just like Crosshair is now. But that's going to be it for me today, folks. I thought this was a great episode. I really can't wait to see what they continue to do with this. A lot of good, wholesome moments, a lot of really great action scenes. I'm really curious to see what else Crosshair can do, maybe even come into contact with Saw Gerrera. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below anything you liked about this episode as well. And that's going to be it for me today.